Well, basically, my name is Rangali, and again, I don't know whether there are past students of mine here. I hope not. Simply because if they are here, that means they haven't done the exam or they haven't got through the exam. Nevertheless, I've sent you a link. You can see what my profile is. I'm a practicing attorney at the moment. I've been in the banking industry for the past 17 odd years. Banker per se, full time for over a decade, and now I'm in commercial and civil private practice. I'm a lawyer by profession, and also lectures at several other institutions, and also an examiner at the law college. My lecturing, I've been lecturing for about nearly a decade now. Here, there's quite a lot of people still joining in. I see quite a list here. Right, so that's about me. You can see more information on of my profile in the link that I've sent you. Fine. So the methodology that I will be delivering this would mainly my objective is that you understand the principles behind this, the basics, right? What I see when I visit banks, branches, and when I communicate with them, a lot of students are there. I might not know them, but of course, certainly they recognize me. But for the others, the pulse I've got is not very promising about their knowledge of banking and banking law, banking practices, etc. Therefore, sometime back, not initially, this was an optional subject, but then again, it was made a compulsory subject for obvious reasons, because without this, those who are in employment in banking and for those who are aspiring to become a banker, it's important that you know your banking law and your basics, right? So if you have questions, please do ask me. Maybe a different way of doing, clarify, yes, ask me, right? So we will be commencing on negotiable instruments. Negotiable instruments, what you need to know is comparatively, this is a lengthy area, as well as an area where not much of many people use the law, but few are aware of the nitty-gritties or the law behind that, right? Negotiable instruments. Okay, right? The law relating to bills of exchange and negotiable instruments, right? Bill of exchange, of course, we will commence this lecture with a bit of a history behind these bills of exchange. Where is my pages document? Right. But before I come to this bills of exchange ordinance, like I said, we are going to have a provision as to what a negotiable instrument is all about. So until that, you can just stop sharing about on the tute. All of you all got that tute, right? I'm assuming yes. If not, just let me know. I will share it with you now, right? Bills of exchange, Vinimay bill. All right. Still, there are so many people joining in. Supposed to start at 1 o'clock. I'm so concerned about this. Okay, I will share that. Right. So don't worry, I'll share that. I expect you to do something about this. I could have made this more boring, but I want you all to maybe, since this is online, open a Word document, or even a book, and write these things down. It's good to know these things, right? It's not only good to know, it's very important that you know these things, especially when there is a customer, when you're in the branch or in the bank or whatever the department it is. If somebody asks you the question, why are we doing that? you wouldn't know to answer unless you know the basics behind it, right? So therefore, write these things down. That is, and create that note for you, right? What are the payment methods? I'm asking this simple question, so I want all of you all to interact with me, right? Make learning enjoyable, right? And just uh, take part. What are the payment methods that you know of? Payment methods. I will tell the first one. Brace yourself. I'm going to tell the first and the most difficult one. Cash, right? What are the other payment methods that you know of? Payment methods.
Checks.
Debit cards.
Card payments.
Remittances.
Online
Swift.
payments.
Swift.
Online payments.
Clip.
Yes,
Safe.
online. Theft.
QR payments.
Mm-hmm.
Promissory notes.
Good.
TTs.
Yeah. Anything else? Nothing else.
LCs.
LC is good. See, that's not a very hard question, was it? You could answer that question just by being alive, right? You hear these things day in, day out, and good to know certain things that you mentioned. Also, you mentioned certain acronyms also, right? SEFs, LCs, TTs. Not the laymen wouldn't understand what you mean by them. So what you are not a layman in that perspective. So as bankers and those other students who are not working, who are aspiring to become bankers, know even now itself the meaning of those acronyms. For example, TT is telegraphic transfers, right? LC is letters of credit, like that. What does SEF stand for?
Common electronic fund transfer system.
Fund transfer switch
Switch.
SEFs. Right? So like that, RTGS. RTGS is
Real time
Gross settlement.
gross
Very good.
settlement.
RTGS is made redundant anyway now. Slips.
Sri Lanka Interbank Payment System.
Good. See, some of you all, it's in your blood. Very easy for you to answer for the others. You're struggling, you're remembering a little bit. As bankers, these things needs to come swiftly and should be like moving your own body parts, right? So similarly, negotiable instruments, right, or the bills of exchange ordinance that we are going to talk about today, is a payment method, right? Payment method there's an interesting history behind this, right? You may jot down. This is very nice, right? Now we are in the 21st century. 2 decades have gone by. We are in the 3rd decade now. This negotiable instruments, right, had its growth in the 17th century in England and Europe, when the businesses, the merchants, and all this international trade was increased between England and Europe. This whole concept of negotiable instruments, emanated, developed, started, right? And mainly it was based on credit transactions, right? For an example, like let's say there is a person in England and a person in France, right? Businessman. The person in England buy something from France. What had to do was, when he was buying something from France, he will share let's say the person in France is anything, Albert, right? And the person in England is Henry, right? Henry buys certain things from Albert. Albert sends the goods from France in the ship, and Henry has to pay for them. So those days, the mode of, or the currency was like gold, right? When Albert sends these goods to Henry, Henry also has to send the consideration, you call it, right? Not money, to Albert. It takes a longer time. It takes, the duration is much, and it gets delayed. And especially in sea, on these voyages, pirates are there, and the risk of it's getting lost en route is high. So they had to have an alternative, right? Alternative for this payment method, because it's too risky, it's getting delayed, and a lot of what do you call cost involved in doing that. Insurance to the weight and all. Because of that, they came up, or they were thinking about many other ways of transacting internationally. So what did they do? They say need is the mother of all inventions. What they did was, they resort to this paper-based payments between these merchants, right? This is something which started by the businessmen, right? Bills of exchange. So what they did was, Albert and Henry here, let's say there is another person in England whom Albert owed money to, right? We'll call him Alex or something. Alex is in England, Henry is in England, Albert is in France. So instead of Henry sending the gold in, typically what had to be done was, Henry had to ship whatever the gold as the consideration for the goods he purchased to France, Paris, and then Albert has to send that to England again to Alex, to whom he owed money, right? Now that's the normal connection. But in order to cut short it and to take out all those risks, whatever that we discussed a while ago, they came up with this payment method where Albert, in writing, in a document says, Albert says and sends a document to Alex in London that Henry owes me 50 pounds or whatever the number of gold or whatever, right? So you can take that particular gold from Henry. You present this document to Henry, he will give that to you. You don't have, so that Albert doesn't have to ship it from France to London. So that is cutting short of the trip, right? It was found very useful. However, Alex got the title to that document only if he was genuine, only if Albert from France signed it, right? And there was no fraud in that. So he got the title to that particular document, which we today call the Negotiable Instruments, only if you suffice those requirements. So it became very popular, right? So there are essential features for a negotiable instrument. Don't be scared of these terms, negotiable instruments, and all these fancy words, right? Use it more, read about it more, and easier it will get, right? Then the features of a negotiable instrument. Property and rights in a negotiable instrument right? I will come to bills of exchange ordinance later on. I'm just giving you the history behind this, right? Property and rights in the negotiable instrument passes by delivery alone. Passes by delivery alone. So Albert passes that particular piece of paper to Alex, and the property in it, the property and the rights in it passes by delivery, right? Or if required, Alex can sign it and give it to someone else also. You call it endorsement. Don't worry about these terms. We will study these words in detail later on, right? You don't need further evidence on transferring this particular property or money or whatever through a negotiable instrument. For an example, if you are selling your vehicle, you need so many other formalities to be completed, like transfer papers has to be signed, you need to deliver the possession of the vehicle, then you need to send a no objection letter, and you need to sign the MTA forms, etc. But you don't have to do all these things for negotiable instruments. Just passing this particular paper itself is alone it's sufficient, right? The holder of the instrument can sue in his own name. Right? What is that a big thing to be able to sue on his own name? Yes, it is a big thing. That gives you the right to vindicate your rights. For an example, let's say someone stole your phone, right? Or someone grabbed your phone from you. Or else, we'll take another example, those who are employed. You were terminated by your employer, right? What can you do? You can file action in the labor tribunal under your own name. That is suing under your own name. Let's say your friend was terminated. Can you file action on his behalf or her behalf? No, because that right and title comes only to you and to the things that you own, right? So that title comes simply by you holding the negotiable instrument, right? Nobody needs to again, write it and confirm it with letters and etc. No, you don't need that. You don't need to give notice to the debtor as well. And when you have the negotiable instrument in your hand, there is a presumption. Presumption means there is an understanding that you have given sufficient consideration for that negotiable instrument. By now, I presume you all know what is consideration is. What is consideration? What's consideration? You can even type it. What's consideration? You should have done that. Anyone? There are over 50 students in this session now. What is the consideration?
Parties contributing to the contract.
I expect a more precise answer.
Transferring the funds?
No. In law of contracts, I think parties contribution made by parties involved in a contract. You are somewhere there, but I didn't get the answer, proper answer. Let's say there's a contract between two parties, right? What's a consideration? Contract. What is a contract? What is a contract?
A specific agreement that is legally binding and is enforceable in court.
Good. What are the ingredients that needs to be there in a contract? Because you just mentioned some ingredients.
Agreement. Both parties.
Yeah. Some of you have answered also. Go ahead. Sorry.
Intention to create legal relationship.
See, now I'm getting some legal feedback. Yes, go ahead. Lalani, offer acceptance consideration. Where is Lalani? Lalani, can you tell me then what is consideration? Kirtana says it's an essential element of a valid contract. Yes. So, consideration. Give me an example. Good reason. I won't say no, but I need more. Value related to a transaction. Come on. What you get for what you give. Basically, that is consideration. In Sinhala, we call it pratishtava. Sri Lanka, we need valuable consideration. Agana pratishtava. Benefit that each party receives or expects to receive when entering into a contract. That's okay. And also, I just wanted to remind you, right, when I ask you questions, of course, you are another part, not in the same area physically. So, anyone don't, basically what I'm saying is, it's no point in going to the internet and copy pasting it, right? I just want you to start thinking. That's what is needed. Not that you have done, it's just that it's just to give heads up. Both parties must give something valuable for a contract. Very good. So this is what is consideration is. Consideration, for example, you go and buy a phone. When you are buying a phone, you need to pay something. That is consideration. So what you give for what you get, right? There should be consideration. So for other transactions, when you pay by money or whatever, you need proof of payment and receipts and stuff like that. But by the fact that you hold a negotiable instrument itself presumes that you have given consideration for that, right? It's a presumption. That's a very good thing because it's on the other party to prove that he didn't get it, right? It's a presumption that is given, granted by law, right? So, law of merchant and all this mercantile law. What are the sources of law? Sources of law you all did, right? What are the sources of law?
Constitution and statutes, personal law,
What else?
Roman Dutch law, English law,
Mm-hmm.
Customary law. Case law.
Yes, good. So, customary law, case law, all these are sources of law. Good, I hope you all remember every one of you all, right? Here and there I'm getting your feedback, that's good news. These are sources of law. So, law of merchants, remember, this is an area, banking law is also an area where a lot of laws are customary laws, right? Certain areas, it's not in the statute book or it's not in the law book to say what it is, right? Therefore, it's important to know what these customary laws are. Any examples of these customary laws in the law of banking? Any examples? No? No examples.
Own habits or ethics.
Yeah, it's more than that. Basically, it's law. If you violate it, there will be repercussions. Ethics you violate, there won't be consequences, so to speak, right? If you breach a law, but there will be consequences. So something like that. Unwritten laws. What are these unwritten laws that you come across in banking? Now, many of them are being in the process of being reduced to writing. One example. No idea?
Duty of secrecy.
It's section 77, it's written. started off, Section 77 of the Banking Act. It started off with like that. But no, even today, there are certain things. So you dwell on that, think about it. I'm not going to bore you with, I'm just not going to give you the answer.
Stale chicks.
Very good. Very, very good. Muhammad Alpha. Stale checks. It's not written anywhere. It's customary. In Sri Lanka, it's 6 months. Very good. I hope all of you have got it. As to what a stale check is. Mainly now that is developed with case laws, right? Very good. Now, I'm coming to law of merchant or mercantile law, also known as lex mercatoria. Don't worry too much about these fancy words. What this basically mean is the laws and the principles those merchants those days used to follow over a long period of time, and as a result it became so engraved in the system where violation of it, although it is not law of the land, it was honored by the merchants itself, and in the event of a breach, the courts recognize each party's rights according and upon those laws as agreed by those parties, right? So the English courts of law also, the judges, they agreed and accepted those principles. Now, these merchants, like I said, the example that I gave you with regard to negotiable instruments in the transaction between England and France, like that. For an example, if Henry doesn't honor his undertaking to Albert, then there's going to be an issue. Then they can file action. Then they can vindicate their rights in a court of law. In 1882, in England, they came up with this Bills of Exchange Act in England. Bills of Exchange Act. It was passed in the Parliament in England, and it was this Bills of Exchange Act was more or less copied all over the colonies under England, like Canada, Australia, Sri Lanka, India, etc. This Bills of Exchange Act was drafted by this person called Mackenzie Chalmers. Actually, Sir Mackenzie Chalmers. He is a civil servant in England, and he was entrusted in compiling this. The history says that he went through over 2,500 cases, disputed cases in the English courts to compile this in 1882, and for that he was awarded a knightship by Her Majesty the Queen. So Sir Mackenzie Chalmers. Now the wonder is, Bills of Exchange Act in England 1882. Later on in 1927, like I said, it was copied to all the colonies. We had our Bills of Exchange Ordinance, number 25 of 1927, more or less the same substantially with the Bills of Exchange Act in England. Marvelous piece of legislation, marvelous law, where 1927, almost a century ago, or if you take the Bills of Exchange Act, it's over a century ago, this was there, and there weren't much amendments to the English Bills of Exchange Act, but there were few amendments to the Sri Lankan Bills of Exchange Ordinance in 2 instances. We will be discussing all these things. And the wording, the drafting used, see, the sentences are not very long as you see in other acts when you see the Bills of Exchange Ordinance. Why? Because it was drafted by a civil servant, a non-lawyer. Right? It's a marvelous piece of legislation which is governed, which is applicable even to date. You're talking about now. How wonderful is that? So that's one thing I wanted to bring to your attention. Right? So in Sri Lanka, we have the Bills of Exchange Ordinance number 25 of 1927 governing the law of Bills of Exchange. Right? In Bills of Exchange, it talks about negotiable instruments. Right? Negotiable instruments. Right? Negotiable. So how do they define this negotiability? We will be discussing in length. But for now, can any one of you all tell me examples of negotiable instruments? Examples. Examples of a negotiable instrument? No idea.
Checks.
We couldn't follow that. Couldn't hear properly.
Checks.
Yeah. So checks, you get money orders, then you get promissory notes.
Commercial papers?
Pardon?
Commercial papers?
Yes. Commercial papers, dividend warrants, right? TBs, certain things like that. Like postal orders, fixed deposit certificates, certificates of deposit, share certificates. These are not negotiable instruments. You can't negotiate them, right? Then we have to understand these principles of negotiability and transferability. Often than not, people, including bankers, lawyers, laymen, they confuse these two terms to be synonymous. It's not synonymous. These are not the same. In other words, negotiability is different, transferability is different. All negotiable instruments are transferable, not vice versa. Just think about it again slowly. All negotiable instruments are transferable, but all transferable instruments are not negotiable. Right? I'll give you an example. Think about a 5,000 rupee note and your phone. Your phone, you lose your phone. Somebody else takes it. Right? And someone else steals from that person or whatever. It goes to the hand of another person. Now, you don't have the possession of your phone now. Right? Whoever has the possession of your phone doesn't have the title to your phone. Your phone, you still own your phone. Right? That's why you can file action or whatever. You can recover your phone. That phone is yours, not anyone else. So it may have transferred, the possession may have transferred to another person, but the title is not transferred. You still have, the person who is holding it doesn't have a good title to that. Right? It has gone to another person. It still remains with you. But a 5,000 rupee note, let's say you lose it and then somebody picks it up and then he buys something, some goods from a shop by giving that 5,000. So that person in the shop, the vendor, without knowledge that it was stolen or picked up or anything, he takes that 5,000 rupee note and the title to that has passed now to that vendor. Now that has transferred. A good title has passed, right? So transferability doesn't always or necessarily transfers the good title, the original title with it. It may transfer only maybe the physical possession of the property, And for the title to be passed, there should be an additional thing that needs to be done. For example, the example I gave you on selling your car. Just because somebody comes and steals my car parked in the road, that person have the possession of my car, but not the title to my car. Right? That's the difference between transferability and negotiability. Right? So we come to Bills of Exchange, Ordinance number 27 of 25 of 1927, right? If one asks, right, what is the most important section in Bills of Exchange Ordinance, is what I'm going to do now. The most important section, right? I want you all, if possible, to by heart this. I want you all to, we will go through this section, we will dissect this section and see what is in that section for us, right? Always when you get a question, when you have a concern with regard to the validity of a bills of exchange or etc., etc., this is the section that you need to put this into test, right? We will go through this interpretation in a while. This is the most important. Bill of exchange defined. What is a bill of exchange? Right? There are 5 ingredients, more or less. A bill of exchange, 1, right, is an unconditional order. It should be an unconditional order. There can't be conditional orders, and there can't be unconditional anything. It should be an unconditional order. 1. Second one, it should be in writing. Unconditional order, it should be in writing. Right? Addressed by one person to another. Third one, addressed by one person to another. Unconditional order in writing, addressed by one person to another. Signed by the person giving it. Fourth one, signed by the person giving it. Requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand. Fifth one, right? Pay on demand. To pay on demand when it is presented to pay, or pay on demand, or at a fixed determinable future time. Some certain in money. Fixed determinable future time, some certain in money, to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. Read that sentence once again. A bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing, addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand or at a fixed determinable future time, some certain in money, to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. So we will go through these specifics one by one to see whether it's a bill of exchange or not. And subsection 2 says, an instrument which does not comply with these conditions or which orders any act to be done in addition to the payment of money is not a bill of exchange. I want all of you all to download this bills of exchange ordinance of Sri Lanka. Maybe keep a print copy, and whilst we are, because I am going through this lesson will be conducted through predominantly on the bills of exchange ordinance. So I'll be going through the sections one by one, not all, but the main sections, right? And guaranteed, when you look at the history, also the past papers, not majority all of the time, because you can't talk about banking without bills of exchange, right? So this will be questioned. Yeah. This is an area where the questions will be formed. Therefore, I'm not asking you, I'm not telling you all to by heart these things. It's no point in by heart. Understand the basic, the principle behind these things. It's very important, right? Now, we will go through this one by one. Unconditional order. What is an unconditional order? If you don't understand something, please ask me. Then I will explain that to you. Right. Unconditional order. So there must be an order. You know how to order, right? Vidanayak කියනවා. In Sinhala, we call it a vidana, right? It's a command such as to pay ABC, right? Or pay, let's say, pay Tarindu, pay Amila. It's an order. It's an unconditional order. It doesn't give any conditions. If it says pay Amila if he comes to your doorstep, then that's a condition. That's not a bill of exchange. Understand? Very simple. Take the simple meaning on this. Pay Amila. It should be an order. If it says, can you pay Amila? What is that? Please pay Amila. What are those? Is there an order?
Request.
Very good. It's not an order, it's a request. Right? If that is there, it's not a bill of exchange. It's not a valid bill of exchange. Right? So it should be an order. Right? If it says pay Amila from my savings account, what is that? Is it an unconditional order? Oh no.
Unconditional though.
It's a conditional order. The moment there's a condition, it's not a valid bill of exchange. It's invalid, void. You can't use it. Right? So remember this. Basics are, you don't forget this. Section 3, most important section of Bills of Exchange Ordinance. So there shouldn't be a condition, and there should be an order. Order should be unconditional, right? In this case, I will give you this case. Here is this. Hamilton versus $1849. Right? The phrase, we hereby authorize you to pay on our account to order of. What is this? What is that? Would that constitute to be a valid unconditional order? Answer mean it's okay. We hereby authorize you to pay on our account. On our account means to debit me to the order of. Let's say I will simplify it more. We hereby authorize you to pay on our account to Amila. Does this meet the requirements of an unconditional order? What do you all think? I can't hear anything. Yes or no? Others? Yeah, there are over 50 students here. Others. Soon. Others? Right. I am going to confuse you a little bit now. Right? Actually, it's just a figurative statement. You need not be confused. It's very simple and straightforward. Look at this. In this case, the statement we hereby authorize you to pay on account of the order of, I have just taken that part of order of. It was held that this is not an unconditional order. This phrase did not create the clear obligation to pay. It says, I'm authorizing you. I'm giving you the authority to pay. Was distinguished from an unconditional order. That means there is no hindrance for you to pay. Kind of a notion you get from that statement. Right? Understand? It should be expressed. The order should be expressed. Pay him. Without saying, I hereby authorize you. Similarly, the terms, I should be obliged if you would arrange to pay, also was deemed as not an order. It was a request, actually. Right? So this was held. You can write down your notes. Not as an order, for that matter. Not as an unconditional order, for that matter, an order. It was a request. Right? Right? Now, we come to the second condition. What is that second condition? In writing, unconditional order in writing, which is quite straightforward. It, ink or pencil will be sufficient. It should be printed. Writing includes print also. It could be printed also. Basically, that there should be printed or writing or whatever order. It's straightforward. Unconditional order in writing, signed by the person giving it. Right? Signed by the person giving it. This means the bill of exchange must be signed by the issuer. We call him the drawer. Right? Drawer of the bill. It is sufficient. Now, the bill is signed by some duly authorized person on behalf of the drawer is also fine. Right? Right. So it should be fine. Who are the parties to a bill of exchange? Who are the parties? So the first party I will tell you, just what I said a while ago. Drawer. Who are the other parties?
Bobby,
Drovey. Who is the Drovey?
the bank,
Maybe the bank. The party. No, yeah, wait. The party on whom the order is given. Pay. Who is the payee? The beneficiary. Then you, right, there are other terms. We'll go to the interpretation section and see what these parties are. No, I'll go. We'll catch this in a while. Otherwise, I'm losing the flow. Right? So we go to the next one. So unconditional order in writing, signed by the person giving it, requiring the drawee to pay on demand. Requiring the pay to person to whom it is addressed. That is, drawee to pay on demand. Now, you could see that this condition or this statement indicates a time of payment. What is this time of payment? On demand. On demand කියන්නේ ඉදිරිපත් කරපුවම ගෙවන්න ඕනේ. Payment on demand mean that is demanded. By presenting that, you need to pay that. Or, right? So on site or on presentation, right? Or at a fixed or determinable future time. Or at a fixed or determinable future time. Now, apart from on demand, it could be either on demand or a fixed determinable future time. What is a determinable future time? It could be a period after the date, right? Or after sight, or after the occurrence of some event which is certain to happen, right? But payment cannot be based upon a contingency, right? Even if it is to occur, you cannot say undeterminable future time. It should be determinable. It should be fixed. It should be certain. For an example, a document expressed to be payable 6 days after the ship named Sea Lion leaves Colombo Harbour is not a good bill of exchange because the specified event might not happen. This was stated, decided in this case. I'm giving you all these cases so that you can read it. Now you have ample time. Right? It should be payment on demand or at a fixed determinable future time. If I say an order like this, pay anything, pay and right, whatever after let's say after he gets cured from COVID-19. What do you all think? Is this a fixed determinable future time?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because there is no fixed limit.
Yeah, it's not certain. It's not certain whether she would recover on 7th day or 14th day, 21st day, or the 30th or the 60th day, or whether she would die. You don't know. It's not fixed determinable future time. Pay Samantha after Sri Lanka elects a don't answer that. You see, it should be certain. It should be fixed, determinable, and a future time. right? I'm taking your attention to section 11 with regard to this determinable future time. A bill is payable at a determinable future time within the meaning of this ordinance, which is expressed to be payable at a fixed period after date or site. That's okay. No? That's future date. Or on or at a fixed period after the occurrence of a specified event which is certain to happen, though the time of happening may be uncertain. Future determinable future time, which is certain to happen, though the time of happening. An instrument expressed to be payable on a contingency is not a bill, and the happening of the event does not cure it. So, if it's a certain thing to be happening in the future, that's what it requires. It should be certain, right? You might not know it, whether it's tomorrow, day after, whatever, but then again, certain to happen. But if it is just a contingency, no. Contingency means you are not sure. It might happen or might not happen, right? That is what it basically means.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Is there any, once we receive the bill of exchange request, is there any particular period to pay off?
Come again, ask that question again.
Is there any period to pay? Is there any 7 days, within 7 days, 14 days, is there anything?
No, so no. Immediately, you have to pay. There is, if it is, for an example, when it comes to checks and all, let's say, don't complicate it. If it is payable on demand, you have to payable on demand. When it's presented or when you cite it, it should be payable on demand. Let's say, let's put it into a context. Check is a bill of exchange. When it is being presented to the bank must pay it on demand. Meaning, but there are certain, procedures. It should be presented on a reasonable hour on a business day, when that person is, conducting business. So when that is done, now this is modified with the clearing rules and regulations. So there is no within period. It should be payable on demand. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Right. Then we come as unconditional order in writing signed by the person. Get this again. Unconditional order in writing addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future time. So if it's a determinable future time, the second part of your question, if it's payable on demand, you have to pay it on demand. If it's a fixed determinable future time, let's say pay so and so on the next Vesak day. That's correct or no? Fixed determinable future time, right? You can't say whether it's in whatever, you don't need to specify maybe which day. Next Vesak day. Certain to happen. Right? Or on Christmas day. Next Christmas day. Next. If you just put Christmas day, then that becomes what? That becomes what? It's undeterminable. Which year? So if you say next, it's the upcoming Christmas. Like that. See how we can play with the words. Right? A sum certain in money. some certain money, right? Taking you to section 9. Some payable is certain, although it is required to be paid, right? Some payable by a bill is a sum certain within the meaning of this organ, although it is required to be paid with interest by stated installments, stated installments with the provision that upon default the payment of the installment may be whole shall become due according to the indicated rate of exchange. See, for example, you don't need to, what this basically says in simple words that you don't necessarily need to indicate a figure. You don't need to say $1,000. You don't need to say 100,000 rupees. You can say 100,000 rupees plus interest at AWPLR plus 1%, whatever to that effect. You can give an interest rate also. It's some certain. It's a sum payable. Stated installments, whatever, right? But it's a sum certain because you can arrive at that sum. Understood? Promissory note. Example. I hereby undertake to pay so and so on demand the 1 billion rupees plus interest accrued on that principal at the rate of 10% from this date until the payment is done in full. Some certain. Or else I can say, I undertake to pay 100,000 rupees. That's the capital. Or I say I undertake to pay 150,000 on this date. That 150,000 is which you have already calculated that. So it's up to you. It should be some certain. Need not necessarily be, you have to put the numbers. You can, it's certain. Right? However, in this particular case, versus Wildy 1990. It will that an order to pay a fixed sum and this was held as not a sum certain in amount. Because you don't know what that charges, what are the charges. It's not certain. And all costs. You don't know what the costs are. You have to indicate that. You have to make it certain. Then only it will become a bill of exchange. So this century ago, these questioned how advanced the minds were. Right? So, an unconditional order in writing, addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future time, a sum certain in money to or to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. So, in this, there are 3 instances. One is a specified person. For example, pay Samantha. Pay Samantha. Specified person, right? Or order of a specified person. Pay or order. අර සිංහලෙන් තියෙනවා ගෙවනු Samantha whatever or pay Samantha or order Samantha or අනපරිදි කාගේ අනපරිදි Samantha. So under whose order? Samantha's order. If Samantha says now she's the pay, she can say let's say she owes money to somebody else, she will endorse it and give it to someone else. Her order. Right? You can say that also. To the bearer. Example, pay Samantha or bearer. Samantha or රැගෙන එන්නට. Bearer. Whoever who brings it. You don't know who brings it. Right? These three can be there. Right? Now, I will ask you a question. I will ask you a question. Right. It. Right, this is a bill of exchange. Let's අපි දාමුකෝ. You will see in a moment in your screen. This is update in a moment.
Can see, sir.
Huh?
Can see.
Can't see.
No, can see.
No, I mean, I have just updated this particular bill of exchange with certain information. It's getting synchronized. It's a small delay in that. Just let it update. Slow. Right. Can you? I think you all can see this, right? Don't worry about the nitty-gritties, the logos and stuff like that. The date is there. Let's say date is what? 11, 12, 13th. So date is also there. Let's assume. Put this into section 3 and tell me whether or not this is a valid bill of exchange.
Not valid.
So it depends.
It depends. Who is that? A diplomat here? Amana Bank.
No, according to the bills of exchange
Depends on
ordinance,
the-
this is not valid.
According to the bills of exchange ordinance, this is not valid. So
Not valid, sir.
not valid. Okay, my goodness, right.
It's not valid.
Oh, Bala. Let's see why it is not valid. So we'll go with not valid. Right. Okay. Why do you say not valid? Who said not valid?
It says pay as cash and there is an order, so it should be bearer.
It should be bearer. Because no negotiable.
Sir,
Okay, Sean, tell me.
sir, if there's a person whose name is called Cash, then we can pay him, no, sir?
Yes. See, this is a low class. No? I want your responses from a legal perspective.
No,
Think
sir.
it-
Then it's no.
No. Okay. Reason for you saying no is why? Because
Cash is not a person.
cash is not a person. All right. If I say this, is it valid? Wait. Hold on. If I say this, is it valid?
Yes, sir.
But still cash is
Yeah,
not a
this is
person.
valid.
What was that?
It's valid, sir.
Why? It's still cash. No, cash is not a person.
But even though we can pay over the counter.
But it says bearer, sir. It says bearer or bearer. Earlier it was order. Now it's bearer.
Yeah, we can see the difference. But why I'm asking you, as per section 3, you said the earlier is not valid because it's cash and order. Now it's valid because it's cash or bearer. Why I'm asking? There are 50 odd students.
I think I'm wrong. The both are correct.
You
I
think
think
you're
I'm
going to
wrong
do what?
previously. Both can. I think I am wrong previously. We can pay both of the checks over the counter because
Okay, this is who?
and the order it says as is order, but it's not like order එක කපලා නැහැ. So
හරි. Order එක කපලා නැහැ. Right. Others, කවුද මේ? Sean?
Yes, sir.
See, just hold on. Yeah, when I'm marking the exam papers, when I'm marking, I know whether he is employed or not. And I also know whether this person has studied or not. That's quite obvious. Some candidates who are employed gives a correct answer for the wrong reasons, then your marks or that answer is wrong. Very simple. Because now to all of you I'm telling, in this paper, what we'll be looking at and gauging is your knowledge of law. Certain things you are doing by out of practice. You might say this is right, this is wrong, this is how you to do it, this is how you can't accept this. But why is the question? That's what you need to keep in mind, right? So I'm posing this question again. It's straightforward. Earlier it was pay cash or order. Now it's, then some of you have said you can, you can't. Now it's pay cash or bearer. Now you say you can. Why? I'll make it more interesting. More interesting, and I'm now paving the way. Huh? Now I'm guiding you all to the answer. Wait till it get updated. Now tell me, put this to section 3. Section 3 is important. Yes, answer. Pay Spider-Man no order. You are in the bank clearing, not clearing. In the customer comes and hands over a check like this to you. What would you say? Pay Spider-Man no order check. For the time being, we have not covered that area. This is not cross, so you can encash this over the counter. House check. You are in HNB working, and it's an HNB check. What will you say?
Can pay, sir.
Can pay. Others?
Cannot pay.
Then card they given. Spider-Man, you have clad with Spider-Man's costume and come and to whom are you going to pay? Encashable over the counter. Come on. Why you shouldn't be silent. You'll have to just answer. That's fine if your answer gets incorrect. But remember, you will remember the lesson for your entire life. That's why I'm pushing you this much.
Can't pay, sir.
You
can't pay.
Can't pay. Why?
Since it is not specific, we can't pay, sir.
Because Spider-Man is not specific, you can't pay. That's what you're saying.
Can pay, sir.
Okay. Some say can, some say can't. And give me the your names and the list of your banks. I will pay a visit when you are in the branch.
Excuse me, sir. Spider-Man is a fictional character. So since we can't pay that check.
Okay. Now what do you say? Wait for it. Spider-Man is a fictional character.
Now only Spider-Man.
Wait. It hasn't updated. Give me a moment. Now tell me.
Can pay, sir.
Now Spider-Man became alive.
No, if there is a bearer, no. So who carried the check can encash it over the count.
Now it's bearer. So you tell me the legal position. Nobody told me the legal position. No idea.
Can't pay, sir.
Can't pay. Spider-Man or bearer can't pay. Okay. Now every one of you listen carefully and carefully enough, right? Everyone. If you all want to jot down your notes, please do that now. Don't ever forget what I'm going to teach you now. Look at, see, everything you come to the basics. Look at section 3. What did we learn? Bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing. So is there an unconditional order here? Yes. Pay Spider-Man or bearer 90,000 rupees. Yes. Ticket. That's fine. Addressed by one person to another. Who addressed it? That person has signed here. And to another. A.L.A. Fernando, who signed it, has addressed that to HNB. That box is also ticked, right? We are going to see whether this is a valid bill of exchange. Signed by the person giving it. Fernando has signed it. Tick it. Require the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand. Yes, you can see that on demand. It doesn't say at this date or on Christmas or whatever. It's a payable on demand, on percentage. Or at fixed determinable future time. It doesn't come into play here. Some certain money, 90,000. Ticket. 2. What did we learn? What did we learn? What did we learn here? Right. Cool. I wrote it, no?
Addressed by one person to other person.
No. In the messages, I wrote it. Pay Samantha, right? Specified person. To or to the order of a specified person or to the bearer. All these are O's, right? OR. To the specified person. Samantha, hari metana Spider-Man. Pay Spider-Man to the specified person. Hari. O to the order of a specified person. Spider-Man or order. That's what was earlier, right? O bearer. 1, 2, 3. All are either to this or to this or to this. You pay the specified person, Spider-Man. You check that. Spider-Man, like you correctly said, fictional character. Then that payment method is out. Right? But still you have 2 other to go. Tick all the boxes of validity of checking whether this is a bill of exchange and all boxes ticked. Now the first one of the last came. 3 options. First one you put it to test, pay to the person, Spider-Man. There is no person as Spider-Man fictional character. It failed that test. Then you go to the next one. Pay or to the order of the specified person. If the specified person is a fictional character or is not a person, in the other words, you can't pay to the order of that person. That also fails. Understand? Okay, then that also fails. Then you go to the last resort. O bearer. What happens in this? Spider-Man is a fictional character. Or for that matter, when Cash was there, it's not a person. Spider-Man is not a person, specified person. Cash is not a specified person. You pay this check. You can pay this check only if it is bearer check. If it is an order check, you can't pay it. If it's a bearer check, you pay it on the strength of the term word bearer. Not because Cash is there, not because Spider-Man is there. Understood? Yes or no?
So can you repeat it again?
Okay. See, when you're answering also, especially a subject like this in law, I told you always you give the legal aspect of your answer. You might be answering from your practice, you might be answering from your gut. That doesn't work. You have to give the legal provision to that. Section 3, you know those ingredients that we just discussed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Unconditional order in writing, signed by the person giving it, addressed to another person to pay on demand or at a fixed determinable future time, some amount, certain amount in money to a specified person or to the order of the specified person or to the bearer. Only those three are there. You can pay to the, for an example, you come across a check, right? Like this, right? Let's say Tuan Hassan. It says like this. Give me a moment, it'll update. It says, pay Tuan Hassan. There is nothing as bearer, nothing as order. Valid check or not? It's a valid check. Because Tuan is a specified person. There is a person called Tuan Hassan. Right? If it says Tuan Hassan or order, what can Tuan do? Tuan can either take it, encash it himself. There's no cross or anything. Or Tuan can give it to somebody else. Or Tuan can say, endorse it and say, pay it to whoever. That means Tuan's order. If it's written order. Pay Tuan as an order. That's an order check. That's the second link. Pay to the specified person or pay to the order of the specified person. Right? Specified person. Or you can pay simply to the bearer. Right? If there is a check like pay Tuan Hassan or bearer, that check, let's say, that check itself becomes, in other words, put it in layman terms. If you get a check, if somebody sees a check like pay Tuan Hassan or bearer, 90,000, even without the knowledge of Tuan Hassan, if somebody bearer takes it and gives it to the branch or bank, it becomes, it's 90,000 rupee note. Anyone can take it. Understand? It becomes payable to the bearer. So if it is, now Tuan Hassan is a person. Current accounts will be see mostly cash checks. Cash. Actually, you don't need to write cash. That's what I'm saying. It's easy to say because he wants cash. That's why he writes cash. You are paying that not because of the term what is written, pay and underline. Not because on the you are paying that on the strength of the bearer. If it was order, you can't because cash can't order anyone. There is no specified person there. When the term bearer is there, you pay that, whether it's cash or whatever the statement there, you pay that on the strength of the term bearer. Understood?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, any other questions? It's
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm going very slowly so that you all understand this. It's very important that you will understand all why we are doing this. There was a question. Yes.
Yes, sir. It means, so in terms of this check, can we blank that place which we wrote cash? So instead of writing cash, can we keep it as a blank?
Technically, you can.
When there's a...
You can.
Okay.
Technically, you can. See, what's the difference of writing cash or bearer and blank or bearer or Spider-Man or bearer? because you are paying not on the strength of what is written there, but but because of the term bearer. Your question, that's my answer from a legal perspective. But if I answer a little bit more from a risk-based perspective, I would want at least something written, even if it is wrong, cash or Spider-Man or whatever to that effect, written there instead of a blank check. Because blank check, if not a blank check, if it's blank over there, it might open up certain assumptions as to who the real intended person. If it's written something boldly wrong, like blatantly wrong, like cash here or Spider-Man here, then the intention is clear. That means it's payable to the bearer. You understand? So from a risk-based perspective, I would be I would welcome if it's written, something is written, other than nothing. Technically, legally speaking, you can pay it to the bearer. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sir, can you please explain the same situations when the bearer and orders are struck off?
Same situation. Last part, tell again.
The same situations when the bearer and the orders are strike off.
Yeah, say for an example, let's say cash. If nothing is there, let's say or order or bearer is not there, right? If you get a check drawn as cash, it's payable to the bearer. Even if bearer is not there, it's payable to the bearer. For it to be considered as an order, it has to be written as order. Same thing. Another question, sir. What will happen if the name of the payee replaced by the NIC number of the person? No payee name printed on the check and only the NIC number. See, I'll give you two answers. One thing is legally, you can argue that NIC number is not a specified person. NIC number, there is a person on that NIC number. Therefore, one argument is that it's a specified person. But on the other hand, you can say NIC number, I don't know what NIC stands for. It's just a number. I don't know whether that's NIC number. So from a risk-based perspective, you can decline the check if it's only the NIC number. Right. Then again, in addition to that, you have to check whether it's a cross-check, because there are verifications that you can do so much. If it's not a cross-check and a person who is not the intended payee comes to the teller, then you can do your verification with the NIC number. Then things gets complicated if it's payable to the bearer and not the payee written on the check, but a bearer comes. So many issues. Therefore, if it's only the NIC number, you can decline it, reject it, check irregularly drawn or something to that effect. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, that's it for today. We'll meet next week. If there is any questions, you can, of course, write to me on if customer service right amount, if erroneous right amount, that's irregularly drawn. That's understood, right? That check is wrong. You can write to me. I'd rather, you may have my contact details, but I'd rather you send me an email and not call me. Don't take it differently or wrongly, because, I might not be available to answer. Right? But of course, you can ask me any question you want, even during the class. Like I said, pertaining to this, or maybe for on any subject in the syllabus. All right. So have a pleasant evening. Stay safe. We'll meet next week.